Welcome to my office. This has been my office all day, and I've been meaning to do this all day long, and here we are. I'm letting my Equestrian Amateur podcast upload into Podcastle. I'm sitting here with my water and my phone and my editing. I've been after it today, but this is where I've been all day long because here in Georgia, it's like fake fall and it's August and it's high of 79 degrees. So I don't know what's happening, but all I care about is that I've been sitting outside literally all day long, enjoying this weather with my computer, and we got Starlink. So I'm able to have internet at my house. And so that's like a huge deal. So praise be. But I have a lot of fun things going on in these next couple weeks, and it's going to be a little wild. And I wanted just to kind of bring you guys up to speed of what's going on, and then also talk about some wins, some lows, and what to kind of expect over the next couple weeks, not in terms of just KB Media, but the overall climate of social media, marketing, business, all of the things, right? So that's what we're here to talk about today. It's like I said, it's been a wild ride. I produced an equestrian docuseries. Sometimes I like to put all of my words together and not enunciate them properly. So, for those that don't know, I have KB Media and KB Media Equine. I'm a lifelong equestrian, and 2 years ago, I decided to open the equestrian side of the business and service equestrian brands, and that is honestly like a completely different market. So we service commercial, really everybody in KB Media, and then we just kind of niche down to hit the equestrian world, because I know that world really well. Now, in terms of actually the past 2 years, I've been learning a lot about how to market to them and build that community, and I've been doing a lot of A/B testing and figuring out who that audience is. And funny enough, and I've said this multiple times, so if you've heard this story, just fast forward. But the funny thing is that KB Media Equine really was born because I needed a place to test out different content styles, hooks, visuals, ideas, all of the things. And so KB Media Equine was created, and then it really took a life of its own. I'm going to take a sip of water. Well, I have like literally one sip. Like that was like literally one droplet of water. And so it kind of took a life of its own. So I think sometimes when people see the KB Media Equine side from the commercial space, they're like, what the hell is this? I'm not really sure what's going on here. And that's to be fair. So, but I always tell people that are in either that space or the marketing space or a potential client, it's literally the same as any niche down market. It's the same as any brand, any business. You just take the equestrian side out of it, and we've just basically implemented everything that we've learned. I'm going to move the camera a little bit because the lens is getting flared. Okay, there we go. So it's just we've taken all of the things that we've learned from KB Media and applied them to a very niche market to build a community. Now, that has taught us so much and has taught us so much about the importance of building a community, how to sell to a community, and the value of everything that comes with it. And not only the value, but the strategy of how to get that. So, I just think it's like funny that horse girls in general always get this like weird rap anyway. So I have had a lot of clients and a lot of potential clients who aren't in the horse world ask me about it. So this is a great way to clear those things up and kind of ask any questions or get your, have the option to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of what's going on with that. So like I said, the equestrian side has been a place where we have learned a lot of how to really service and harness a community. And so therefore we've implemented a lot of the strategy that we've used in that space throughout the years now, to really build up our clients and bring it back to the commercial world. What I think is funny though, and if you're interested in marketing and business, you will find this interesting too, that every niche down market, so we've had every niche market from pies, so that could be like food-based products, restaurants, small animal vets. We've had jewelers, interior designers, product-based like candle companies, or we've Billy's Pecans, who is a product-based, food-based business out of Memphis, Tennessee. And so we've worked with all of these different brands, and I will say that every niche has its own strategy that you have to learn. So I find that really interesting, and not that you have to learn it, and it's really important too to kind of cross-pollinate and start figuring out how to bring strategies that worked in smaller niches and bring them over to different niches. So if you kind of know, like the equestrian space is a relatively small niche, so it's a relatively smaller community. So how can we bring that into maybe a little bit larger community or a little bit larger niche, or vice versa, a little bit smaller niche? So it's always really interesting, because when I say we have KB Media, the commercial side, which is really like they're all just little niches. Like we all have little niches in each business, whether it's boutiques or whatever. So, but it's, we've learned so much about community building and how important it is to build a community in this day and age of social media. And let me just go ahead and say, I want to start this podcast out by saying there is no better time to be in the social media creator space than right now. Period. End of story. And so I think a lot of the time, I have never personally run into this problem, but I have heard of other people running into this problem or saying it on the internet, saying that, well, they feel like they've missed the boat, that everybody's a content creator now, or every business is doing things, and every business is trying to outbeat the next. So why would I throw myself into the ring? And that's just completely absurd. So the value of getting online and being on social media and being on the internet in general is the ability to have so many eyeballs on your business. There is no other way to have that happen. Now, we hit a really big milestone. Today, and I have been running really ragged recently, and I've kind of just been a little down on myself per usual. But we did hit a big milestone today. Not that it's been sitting there. I just discovered it today. And that was that I pulled all of the analytics from across all of our platforms from KB Media Equine, and we brought in between 630 to 650,000 views in the last 30 days. That number is insane. That is sheer organic social media. That is not paid ads. That is not any boosting, nothing. That is strictly off of our strategy, off of our content, and off of what we've implemented and what community we've built. That's it. Now, the crazy thing, that's 21,000 people a day, 7 days a week, looking at our content in the past 30 days. 21,000 people. Now, where in the world would you be able to get numbers like that? Other than paid. Don't you talk about paid. We're not talking paid. We're talking organic social. And we're going to get in and dive into all of the things as to why organic social will always beat paid. Okay? We'll talk about that. But I just want to really resonate with that. And if you guys don't care, that's fine. I care. I think that is an incredibly huge milestone. And I just want to pat myself on the back, because every strategy that we've implemented, and not that everyone has worked, not every strategy has worked, but the strategies that we've, culled from the ones that didn't work, found the ones that do work, implemented them, and hit them really hard, they're working. And we're getting 21,000 views on our content every single day, 7 days a week for the past 30 days. That's just like, it's like truly like over 500,000 people are viewing our content in the last 30 days. Like that is just so mind blowing to me. And it's really hard for me to wrap my head around it, to be honest. Like I can't even like visually, like 650,000 people. Like, could you imagine standing in front of 650,000 people? Where would you even get that many people in the same space? So how many people, okay, let's see. I'm going to look up chat really quick. This will be a really fun thing. Okay, so I'm going to pull up chat and I'm going to ask, hey chat, what would be a town or a city that has the population of 650,000 people? Hello? Okay, let me ask again. Sometimes the voice like doesn't work. Oh, no. Hey chat, what is a city or a town in the United States that has a population between 630,000 and 650,000 people?
One example is the city of Detroit, Michigan. As of recent estimates, Detroit's population is right around that range, roughly in the 630 to 650,000 bracket. So Detroit would be a good fit for what you're looking for.
So you're telling me that in the last 30 days, the entire city of Detroit has viewed my content? That is absolutely insane. Like, that is a staggering number. So anyways, okay, let's like circle back. So let's talk about what we implemented, why we implemented it, and how we can do the same for other clients. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, well, I also really want to circle really quick because I don't want to like spend too much time on this. My cat's coming up here. So if he knocks the camera over, it might happen. And chat still thinks I'm talking to them. So I really just want to brush over paid advertising really quick. And something that I feel very strongly about is the social proof factor when it comes to paid ads. Now, I am no paid ad expert, like at all. So I'll just go ahead and say that. But I also really believe that finding content that performs well in organic, move it to paid advertising, and retarget, you're golden. So like I said, that is not paid ads. I'm not a paid ad expert. Don't take my word on that. That's just what we've done in our own personal realm. So, but we do not do paid ads, but I digress. So let's talk about the strategy to get those numbers and how it works. Okay. So I talked to you about the podcast. So we started a podcast almost a year ago, back in October. And then we decided that we were going to shoot a docuseries, an equestrian docuseries. And then we started we created a series before all of those things called the Equestrian Adult Amateur. Okay. So, and I'm going to walk through each and every single one of those strategies and why they work so well and how you could do the same thing. So the first things first, let's talk about the Equestrian Adult Amateur. So it is a skit style series where it is talking directly to this target community. I know this community very well, so therefore I'm very easily able to speak to them. And what I did was create skits, humorous, relatable skits and pain points that I knew this community was struggling with. And now, while these were sheerly entertainment, right? Like the mission of these pieces of content were sheerly for brand awareness. They were truly just to get our name out there. They were truly just to push content. That is what the purpose was, okay? So I knew that going into it. So we had no goal other than brand awareness, but I do want to talk that we did have that goal. That was the main goal, was the fact that we knew we wanted to create a name for the brand, get us on the map, get us some boots on the ground, and this was the way to do it. So we started that strategy and created it into it's a super long part series now. People loved it. Okay. People loved it. and in each video, we pinpointed a different relatable feature or characteristic or story where people in that audience could see themselves and have been in similar situations, but we made it comical. We made it a joke, and we made fun of, move the camera again. We made fun of being in those types of situations that we all could relate to, right? So it really did a good job of building not only brand awareness, but that trust factor in KB Media. So, and it just provided a lot of really quality entertainment, and which in turn also made it extremely shareable. That is another huge factor of all of this about being and building a community, or being in, building a community and building content around that community. So you want to make content that is extremely shareable. That is the key, man. You've got to make it relatable and shareable so that your target ideal demographic is like, holy shit, they see me, they understand where I'm coming from, and they're going to share it to literally everybody that they know. That is the goal. That's how you're going to hack the system, okay? If you're making content that nobody gives a shit about, no, that's not going to happen, okay? It's just not. So that is the strategy that's the strategy we use for the skit style series-based content. Now, the other part of this that worked really well is skits work well because people really like to get to know characters. They like the characters, they are drawn into them, they get to know them, and I was the character, and I played the annoying adult amateur, the cringy, relatable character that everybody has in their space. Like, everybody in that community knows someone or has been touched by someone like that. So it's humorous. It's funny. It's all lighthearted, right? So the next thing that we did is we wanted to start the podcast. So the podcast was a way for me to sit down with this audience and feel like we are having a one-on-one conversation. And it was funny for a while because when I was doing the skit series really heavily, when I was really in the thick of it, I started to get worried and like self-conscious that people were going to think that like I was like that all the time. Because I was so far away from that, and I was not like that at all. Maybe sometimes, but so I like got really self-conscious that everybody was gonna think that I was like this, freaking really high maintenance, like pain in the ass girl. But so then we moved into the podcast, and sorry, I just realized it was 6:10 p.m. here on this Wednesday night, and my nephew's gonna call me like at any second, who I love, and like we're going to the beach this weekend, and I'm so excited I can't even stand it. Anyways, so we started the podcast, and the podcast was a strategy to be able to communicate with that agency, be able to communicate with that audience in a really like casual way. I wanted to, obviously I had Alexis on as my co-host, and I wanted us to be able to tell stories, relate to people, and on the business side, so I was playing to both sides, right? Like, and as every business owner should be, you play both sides to the strategy. So the skit series was brand awareness. The podcast is going to get a little bit more into the business side. So the business side is we started the podcast, and we wanted to bring on possible potential clients for KB Media Equine. So it was going to kill a lot of birds with one stone. It was going to be able to provide a voice in the community for people to truly just enjoy listening to us, because not every podcast was going to be, something about a potential sponsor or somebody that could be a client in the agency. I would say actually 95% of it is not that. It's really more about community building than it is the business side. And so we're getting a little bit more into the business side now that it's grown and we're able to have sponsors and have advertisers and things like that. But we're not even necessarily there yet. And I didn't want to push that too hard too quickly, because what I see a lot of people do sometimes is they have this mission and they say, okay, I'm going to start this podcast sheerly for the fact of I want to monetize it. I want to monetize it. I want to bring in money. And it's funny because there are people that have reached out to me because I started the Equestrian Adult and Amateur podcast. And they're like, well, we want to do the same thing and we want to make money off of it. And I'm like, well, the funny thing is about communities is that just like everyone, like they sniff things out like that really quickly, right? So the authenticity factor is really important. And you can't just say, well, like people can see right through that, right? And therefore no one's going to listen to it. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into this, that not even just from the beginning when I talked about the skit to now the podcast, and then we'll get into the docuseries, but there's so much human like thinking and consideration, and the way people think, the way people buy, the way people move within these communities is so important. Because you can't just come out of the gate and just say, well, I want to make money, so therefore everybody that I have on is going to be a potential business opportunity for me, and that's what I want. But the funny thing is like, if you decide to do that in return, you're not going to have any data or good data to show your potential sponsors that you want to keep pitching to. Like the data is going to be shit because no one's listening to it. Like the average person isn't going to want to, if I wanted just to pitch all of these big names all the time about things that were self-benefiting, like no one's going to want to listen to that. So having the podcast was a great way to allow the community to get to hear our voices, build trust in us, and then also bring on some guests that we thought would be a good potential fit for KB Media Equine and KB Media. So we have done now, let's look it up. Let's see how many shows we've done. I think we're at 31 shows. 32 shows. I'm about to put out episode 33. So 33 shows. We started, I think, late October of last year. And I don't know if I think we got out a couple episodes before the end of the year. But anyways, so that has been our strategy. We took some time off because Alexis had a baby. So yeah, we're at 33 shows, and it's been really amazing. And I'm just going to kind of walk through the surprising things and some of the things that I feel like oh, my cat's back. Here he comes. Some things that surprised us, some things that I feel like we could have done a little bit differently, and things that I would now and have implemented with clients. And so the first thing is that it's actually very surprising. When we first started, we didn't really think like, wow, people, we just thought we were like, oh my gosh, we were just like two girls with a camera and a microphone, and that we were just telling our stories, connecting with the audience, and really just hanging out with each other. And then we really realized like, oh my gosh, people are actually really listening to this. And so that was kind of a really cool moment. And we've really had some cool moments over the past couple months recently that we've really realized like how impactful the show has been in the community. And I think when you're in a niche market like that, it's always a little bit easier, right? If you are in a really saturated market, such as marketing is an extremely, extremely saturated market. It's much more challenging to get your voice heard. And so that's why not every market is right for a podcast, and not every market is going to be the best fit. But if you are in a saturated market and you really feel like you have a good story and you have a good reasoning as to why you want to put out a podcast, I'm all ears. I think that there's definitely times that it's appropriate, and I think there's times that it's not appropriate. And the times that I feel like it is appropriate, so we're launching 2 different podcasts for 2 clients. So we are launching House of Jess. So we just recorded our first 2 episodes last week, and I want to kind of talk to that strategy and to why we decided to make that decision. As I just told you, the implementation of why we created or how we created the strategy for my personal podcast and what it's done and all those things. And like I said, we learned from that experience, and there's things that I would change and will change when it comes to doing this for clients. So I think the first thing, House of Jess is going to be a really fun, and these are not like revolutionary ideas, right? Like, I am definitely not the first person to think of this strategy, come up with this strategy. A lot of people do this in the marketing world. And if you have a good team behind you, they are going to send you down the right direction. Now, I think it's really important. When we started pitching this idea to Jessica, she was a little unsure as to what she was going to be talking about. She wasn't an avid podcast listener. And she's like, well, I just feel like everybody has a podcast. Like, what are we even going to talk about? And that's a really good point. So I kind of want to talk about that really fast. Oh, my chair. I'm losing it. So I feel as if Oh my God, cat. Can you not do that? Jesus Christ. He just knocked over the camera. Okay. So I love my cat. I do, but he is just a little much sometimes. So it is kind of a valid point that to say, well, everybody has a podcast, right? Agreed. And there have been recently, there are people that I really admire and really love that have podcasts, and I listen to them and I'm like, oh my God, I can't listen to this. It's too much. And then there's people that do it really, really well. Sometimes podcasting is obviously a lot like radio, right? Like you have a face for radio. No, I'm just kidding. But you have to kind of have like, if it's your goal just to be like an entertaining, like a comedic, like a Basement Yard. If you guys don't know who Basement Yard is, it's a great example of this strategy. So Basement Yard is 2 guys. They basically, their entire show, they're both comedians, and they both they've been friends for years, and they just talk about random shit, like random things. I'm sure, obviously it's all planned out. They know what they're talking about prior to, but there's no real like value-driven, it's not a value-driven podcast. It's like sheer entertainment. So when you have like a sheer entertainment podcast, it's definitely way riskier. Like if you're just going to say, hey, I'm an influencer on social media and I want to start a podcast just to have long form content, and I don't really have any like reasoning or substance behind it. So I don't recommend that. But with House of Jess, we wanted to really implement the longer form strategy for her so that her audience could get to know her on a deeper level, so that she could be more candid, talk to the camera in a less, in short form content, you only have really like 90 seconds. I know they've made it longer and whatnot, but like average 90 seconds to say you have 2 minutes to really connect with your audience. And that is not that much time. So your audience doesn't really get to know you on a very personal level. And so that's why podcasting is so great. And so that's what we really wanted to implement with Jessica with House of Jess. And so we're doing that. And she did a solo podcast, and then she also did her first podcast was a solo, and then her second one will be with a special guest. So they are always going to, it's going to be a variety of things. They're always going to bring in the design element, because Jessica is a virtual interior designer, which she is fantastic at what she does. She has a great team. She's one of our clients, worked with her for almost 2 years now, and she's great. And so it is time for her she just hit 100,000 followers. So it is time for her audience to really get to know her on a deeper level and talk about things that maybe aren't so glamorous. So that's what we're really going to do. We're going to bring in the more candid side of Jessica, where we talk a little bit about her personal life. And we're also going to bring in collaborators that kind of lift up and support our messaging of whatever topic we're going to be discussing. And I think that's a really important strategy too, is that you are bringing in guests that really support the host's messaging and their foundations. So whatever message that you are trying to get through to your audience, you want to make sure your guest is aligning with that message. So this isn't like and that's what we were talking to Jess about in the beginning, is that like, this isn't just like a throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. Like, we have a very like planned out strategy and an execution that I already see the roadmap of how this is going to go. So we're not just like, oh yeah, like start a podcast. We didn't know what we were going to talk about, but let's just like see how it goes. No, we know how this is going to go. We're planning everything out. We're being very strategic. And the messaging is really, really important when you're talking about podcasts. And that's where you really have to have a good producer that is going to be able to produce that and make sure that messaging is coming across in the show. So that's podcasting. So we also have one coming out with Buttermilk Kitchen. The owner, Suzanne Vizethin, very, very dear friend of mine. I've worked with her for years. And it's funny, I'm like at this phase right now where I've had my clients for so long and we are growing and we're wanting to bring on new clients. So I've been doing a lot of pitches, and it's really weird because it's like, it's such a personal business, and I feel like I'm like dating, essentially. Like, I'm going on dates and like finding the right fit and finding people that are going to be a good fit, because all the clients that we've had for years. And so our retention, is that right? The retention rate is very high. Which is a huge testament to the brand. I'm very proud of that. It's something that I hold very, very high. So talking about the podcast, that's what we're doing. That is a strategy. If you guys have questions about that, please let me know. Happy to answer. Now, moving into the docuseries. So the docuseries was a strategy that we're still very much developing. So I'm not as confident in this strategy as I am all of the other ones. But the docuseries it's very new. Like, we just haven't had enough time with it in this experimentation to really develop the strategy and give you any data or solidification of, yes, this has worked, or no, this hasn't worked. But I'm going to tell you about the implementation of the strategy and the outcome that we're hoping it is going to have. So again, targeting that niche market, targeting that demographic, that we've done all these steps. And now, while we're building all these steps, we are also very much supporting all of these strategies with strong organic social, right? So we're doing a lot of, and in the meantime, we're working with brands. I'm giving some value in terms of educational content, talking about marketing. I'm talking about brands that I love. So it's always like interesting because you're kind of on this like influencer slash, business role. But you look at the greats like, Vander Media, or Dave Portnoy, Alex Cooper, Alex Earl, like all of those greats that are kind of like really heavy in the media space. Alex and Alex don't have media agencies, but Dave and Gary do. And you go look at their content, and their content is so across the board, right? Like, so I feel like I'm in the same space. I feel like I'm kind of like, that's what I like. And I want people to consume my content and know the brand and really feel like it's a well-rounded space and see everything that we're capable of doing. So the docuseries was definitely something that was a huge, financially, mentally, physically, a huge risk and a huge mountain to climb, a huge bite, whatever phrase you want to use. My brain's not braining because it's 6:40 and I'm hungry. But The docuseries is a project that I thought of, and I felt like it was because I saw a gap in the market in terms of media, which is obviously our specialty. I saw a big gap in media, and I saw that nobody else was doing this. And, so much about KB Media is so much about authenticity, relatability. And that's what I felt was really lacking in the equestrian community. For those of you that don't know anything about the equestrian community, it is a very traditional space. It is a very, it's like polo, it's like racquetball, it's like, any like prestige, golly, we're just popping off over here. I'm trying like cricket or like if you can think of, I can't think of lots off the top of my head, but anything that is like an old world, traditionally based sport. That's what the equestrian space is. So going into that market, now that's something that I could also talk for a long time about because there's a lot of niche markets that I think are like that as well. I think golf is one of them, but has been obviously very, very modernized. Tennis is one of them, very, very modernized. I mean, arguably, I guess anything like baseball, very, very modernized. Equestrian has just not gotten there. It just has not gotten there. So, a lot about the sport is that they just show a lot of the like pearly white, everything's wonderful, everyone's winning everything, no mistakes ever happen types of vibe. And I am not like that. And I know the sport so well that I know that that's not the reality of the sport. So I wanted to create a piece of media that showed the authentic side of the sport. So we've shot 2 seasons so far. The first season was not as highly as produced as the second. So again, like I don't have enough data to kind of figure out like if my strategy is in full effect and if it's actually worked, but I will absolutely say, well, let me just back up. I don't want to get too far ahead of my story. So basically my strategy was that I wanted to bring in people, subjects that people were new, like the community knew and had heard of, and then some subjects that nobody had ever heard of. Like they were just normal people. So you were getting top of the top riders and then some amateurs that nobody had ever heard of. So we did that with both seasons. And I will say that it was an absolute crushed it in terms of who the subjects have been. Pat myself on the back for that. Now I'm just here to tell you there are so many things that I will not pat myself on the back for. I don't pat myself on the back in terms of timing. We hit ourselves really hard. We did one in March and one in May. I mean, like just even like not only, like 2 months apart from each other. And I will absolutely never in my life ever do that again. That was horrific. And this year has really suffered because of it. No regrets, but it was really, really challenging. Not only for everything, for the business, for everything, mentally, all of it was just brutal. So don't recommend that. But the reason that happened is because we just didn't get permission in time. And so we had to kind of like throw it together last minute for the first season. And then second season got approved really quickly. And so we were scrambling and getting funds together. And production of these series and the first one was, they're all relatively self-funded. But we're looking at, we're talking like the second season cost about like $8,500, probably closer to $9,000. Probably closer to maybe a little more than that. So roughly $9,000. And that was just to shoot it. I don't know what I'm doing with this. That was just to shoot it. And so I have been doing all of the promotion, all of the editing, everything that you have seen from that, like any piece of media that you have seen from me has been edited by me. There's one trailer that one of the production guys did, or one of the production guys did, Brad, who's amazing. Scrapyard Media, absolutely crushed it. Huge shout out to them. They're amazing. Can't wait to do it again. We just had a call recently about doing 2026. I am lit about it. I cannot wait. Incredible team to work with. So if you guys ever need like really incredible high quality, they do a lot of extreme sports. it's really amazing what they're doing. So kudos to them. They have a really cool story too. They have a podcast. So you should go listen to it. Anyways, so so it costs about like $9,000 to put it all together because we had to pay for travel, do all the things. And basically, like I said, we had one sponsor who was amazing, and they gave us $2,000, and that was was it? Yeah. She gave us $2,000. It's a tech company called HeyNet, and her name is Brenda Cook, and she is truly one of the most wonderful human beings that ever existed. So she was our one sponsor, and so it was self-funded other than that. So the other $6,000 or $7,000 was out of my pocket. My husband and I still fight about it. It's fine. We're working through it. But I just want to be full transparent because I want to make sure people understand that listen to this and that watch this, the commitment to the business owner, that if you decided to go down this path, this is what you're looking at, right? And that's like on the very low end. And the reason why we decided to do the docuseries, as I said, was because I felt like there was a gap in media. And now you're thinking, Kelly, well, why would you spend, $9,000 on a piece of content just to like spread that message when like that's not even the industry you're really in anyway? So like, why are you doing that? Great question. The whole reason that we're doing that is that what the docuseries did for us was basically so, and it's like me talking to my husband, but everything that we have done in KB Media Equine, starting with the skit series, the character building, the organic social, moving on to the podcast, and then now moving on to the docuseries. Every piece of this motion or moving up, or these pieces of media, all support one another. They all work together. And so when I was building this plan, the docuseries was a later discovery, but I did see all of the other ones kind of in this big intertwined web, looking at it, looking at the projection. And when I saw that the placement of the docuseries in that web and how it could be a huge, crucial, pivotal part of it, I was sold. I knew exactly what I had to do. And so the docuseries placed us on the map in terms of people. Like, we would have never in our wildest dreams been able to have the response or eyeballs or brands or businesses that knew about us, had heard about us, had seen anything that we could produce like that. It truly is mind-blowing to think about, like, just how impactful the docuseries has been in KB Media Equine. Now we're only, like I said, we shot our first one in March of 2025. We are now in almost end of August of 2025. And the response has been astronomical. And I truly don't even know if I necessarily can understand and sit with how astronomical it has been. Not even necessarily in the data. The data is really great, but in terms of people's reaction to it is really the most phenomenal part. We're entering it in film festivals. We've seen it. The premiere of episode 1, season 2, I was sitting in a theater in Connecticut at an event, a live podcast of a peer, Piper Clem, who hosts the podcast, and she has, she partners with this art museum who has this beautiful historic theater that is like a movie theater. And I was sitting in the front row watching this piece of content that we had shot and edited. And it was the most unbelievable time of my life. It's a moment I will absolutely never, ever forget, truly never forget. And not that the response was necessarily at that moment, overwhelmingly incredible. It was everything after that. Once the episode had started coming out, once the social media got traction, once the YouTube got traction, it was like, okay, this is crazy. Like, people are really, okay, but like, I'm not going to have like a cathartic experience right now. I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is the reason why we decided to do this. And this is a part of the business that has been very challenging. It's been super challenging to, it's not a small project, and we are a very small team. And so to produce something at this caliber is at that low of a cost. Like, these productions that are produced, like the ones that you're seeing, like a four episode series like that, I mean, you're talking minimum $30,000 to $40,000 to produce something like that. So you're not talking like a little bit of money, right? Like, because my clients aren't going to spend the time to edit. They're not going to do that. I'm not going to edit it. And the production team's going to have to do a lot of post-production and all of those things. And all of that costs a lot of money, because the caliber of the project, what the project will then in return bring to the business is huge. Now, I would absolutely recommend this strategy and this docuseries strategy, or a large, so this is long form, but like on a very, very large scale, right? This is like the production of a show. And I would recommend that to the right client. If I really felt like we had, all the pieces have to come together first, like, right? Like, you're not going to sign a client and then say, yeah, I think you should start a series. It's going to cost like $40,000. I have no idea, like, anything really about like your community that you have. I don't know if they'd be interested in this, but I mean, yeah, let's just try it. No. I did so much homework and so much research into the community that I had built that I knew that people were going to like this. I knew people were going to value this. So I knew that it was going to be something that maybe wasn't going to get hundreds of thousands of views, like, right off the bat. But the people that did view it, it really sat with. It really connected with them. And that's what I wanted. This wasn't going to be like an F1, like, you know, or Race to the Crown, or any Netflix series where just anybody could watch it. I think that we will eventually get there. This was just for my niche community, period. So I think that's a really important fact to drive home. So that was all of the strategies that we have implemented to get to, and again, like, obviously, like, we haven't even gotten into like the launch strategy, the social strategy. Like, there's so many layers to these strategies that are very, very intricate. They're not something that we've been talking now for almost an hour, and we haven't even like scratched the surface of everything that goes into a single one of these strategies. But I wanted to make this show, or this episode, because I wanted everybody to understand that how these things all work together, and how these things are all incredibly valuable, and how all these things are organic social media, and how powerful these things are. This is where the strategy, having a good team behind you that understands what the freak they're doing, to a business owner that sees the value, it will change your life and your trajectory forever. If you really buy into it and you really understand how valuable these things are, you'll be unstoppable. But it has to be, you have to buy into it. You have to believe that this is the right choice. And while, yes, not every day do I feel like, yeah, this is 110% exactly what I was meant to do, because there are absolutely days that I'm like, holy shit, we've just spent all this money. I still have to run this business. I am like doing all of these things, and it's soul crushing sometimes. But I'm just telling you, 110% worth it. And I would absolutely do it again, over and over and over again. So I'm going to send you guys off. This episode has now been like so long. Probably maybe have to break it up into 2 parts, but I hope you guys appreciate this one. This is a really juicy episode. So buckle up. If you guys are interested in any single one of these, always feel free to reach out. If you want to do a free consultation with me, I want to hear about your business. I want to hear about your goals. I want you to get after it. Anything that KB Media can do to help you, we are here for it. So you guys like, subscribe, comment, all the things. Share this with a friend that you think that will appreciate this, find value in it. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye.